She had run for office even at one point.
Mm.
She was what they hated. She was a joyous, independent woman. And she was a Muslim. She believed, but not their belief, not their dark,
Yeah.
awful belief. And she had actually gotten out, but she had to go back because she didn't want to leave her dad. And like, who can't identify, right? These choices we make and we stay with and these compromises, right? Like, and ugh, they killed her.
Hey, Nicole, what do you get when a former corporate CEO and a do-gooding executive walk into a recording studio?
Well, Aaron, nothing, because the two of us are usually on my couch or Zoom, because wine.
You get a podcast created for Gen X women who are bought into the corporate world, but fed up with the BS.
I know, it's how to thrive the 9 to 5 or 6 or 7.
It's career therapy, it's comedy, it's definitely full-on authenticity. Basically, we give you tangible strategies to rise in your career without compromising everything else.
Because work doesn't have to suck.
Oh my gosh. It's Erin. This interview, I never want to pick favorites, but this had to be one of my favorites in the last 6 years that we've been doing this. I was hanging on every word. Our guest, Melanie Marshall, is so authentic and so generous and hilarious and comes with just an incredible perspective from her time when she just recently retired as a BBC foreign journalist and went to some of the most challenging places in the world. Like I kept thinking like, and we're worried about stepping into a board meeting. I mean, come on. But she shares her stories with humility and with purpose. Oh, it's so good. So, hi, it's Erin. I didn't even do my opening spiel because I'm so freaking excited about this. This is, of course, because work doesn't have to suck. This is Erin, one of your co-hosts. We help you get through work life differently and more authentically and with less bullshit. Let's just put it that way. So Melanie Marshall is our guest today. She, as I mentioned, she's a former BBC foreign journalist, just recently retired, turned filmmaker, speaker, and coach. And most importantly, despite the fact that she has seen some of the worst shit in this world, been to some of the most oppressed places, depressing places, her entire brand and message is about how optimistic and hopeful she is for the world and for our future. I mean, you need to hear this message right now. I know I did. So here's some of the things we'll talk about. It's mostly just amazing stories with great lessons. We talk about the time that some of radicalized followers of Osama Bin Laden, she met with them to interview them like days after his death. And the things they did to make her feel safe and welcome, even though their views did not match. We talk about, just this thread of what anyone can do to create connection despite differences and how meaningful that is. We also talk about the time she tells her book that story when she defied her bosses on like multiple occasions to do a story that they thought was both a dangerous setting and unnecessary. And she just believed it was necessary. It was the story that needed to be told. And so you'll hear how that turned out, the magic that resulted, and the goat. She also tells stories of a couple different stories of really the most oppressed women in this world and how they're just like us. They're just like you and how they find their own joy. I think it'll surprise you and it'll light you up. And then just so many other amazing stories, including the time she got repeatedly beat by a man with a feather duster and who swooped in to save her. And also the time she saved herself using her most important asset. So you cannot miss this interview. It's beautiful. It's hilarious. It's indulgent. It's authentic. It's inspiring. Enjoy this time with Melanie Marshall. I have so many questions, but I would love for you to start with your story about just days, I think maybe weeks at most, after almost Osama bin Laden was shot and killed, and the meeting that you had.
You know what the funny thing is? I actually totally forgot when I was doing my British citizenship test, or like I had to do the submission and I had to get special dispensation because I'd spent so much time out of the country. I had to do this list and I had to get a letter from the big BBC head of news saying, no, she is really like a real
She's
person.
not trafficking drugs or
She's
something.
not trafficking drugs. She's trafficking news. and I was like, I was going through my passport, like, where was I? What was I doing? And I completely forgot at one point that I'd even been there for this. But, which is weird, right? It's so
Yeah.
weird. And we'd gone to Pakistan right after the death of Osama bin Laden because it was obviously a huge moment, right? Huge. And it was another one where I was like lying on my sofa, as I'm sure so many of us are, where it's like, I don't want to get up and do anything. And the phone rings and you're like, oh no, like, no, please, whatever it is.
Just had to get out a remote to click on the news. Not you.
Whatever it is, I don't want to do it. It's not happening, but you do it anyway. And one of the things I really wanted to try and understand, and I thought was important for audiences to understand, was that this isn't a man, this was a movement, and that there were people who followed him and who did not see him in the way that we did, in terms of all of us, right, who were listening. Because if you don't get that, it's very hard to understand how it can continue, where it came from, how he hid there for so long, all of that. And so we went down to Karachi, which is incredible. I love Karachi. Like, it is completely nuts. It is the first city where I was like, I'm so sorry, polar bears, but God bless whoever invented air conditioning, because it's like the hottest city on earth. Sure. There is like a beach where people are playing volleyball, and there's a guy with a cobra, and it's all like crazy, and there are people who want to kill you, right? And it's all there, all in one.
All the things.
All the things, right? And there's like gorgeous rich people in like their super out, shalwar kameez looking amazing. So it's all there. And we went off with the help of an excellent local journalist, as it always is, to meet some, bad guys is probably the word, right? Like, that's the word. These were guys who were committed to the kind of downfall of America, downfall of any Western allies, all of that, who were sad. They were sad that he had been killed. Let's put it that way. And I was nervous. Like, I was so nervous. I had pushed, organized for it to happen. But I was like, on the other hand, I'm in the car and there's that part of me thinking, oh my God, like, am I completely nuts to be doing this? Like, in my head, right? Like, not outside. Right outside, I'm like, okay, everybody, yep, we're doing this.
Right.
We're got our plan. We've checked in. But in my head, I'm like, am I completely nuts to be doing this? Because, Karachi is where Daniel Pearl, for people who have that memory, Daniel Pearl was an amazing American journalist. That's where he was abducted from and killed. And some people might remember the Angelina Jolie movie about his beautiful wife instead. So we're driving to meet these bad guys, carefully coordinated. And I'm trying to be in my Zen zone, which is what I do when I'm working. And I have a space I go to, and it is present as it all get out. And as we get closer, I have the window down because that's what you do for awareness. And I hear the sound of children. And like, it is a biological thing, right? Like, that is just like a thing that happens in humans. What we do is you're like, oh, kids. Right. And I realize we're pulling up at a school. And I immediately feel more relaxed. And what was interesting to me was that these guys were, there's no way I could ever agree with their ideology, but they had chosen something that they knew would make myself and my colleagues, and there was another fantastic female journalist I was with, feel more comfortable, feel safer. That's a language we both speak, right?
Amazing.
And then we pull into the courtyard. I really wish I hadn't been so shocked. I wish there was a picture. People are like, did you take pictures of this? And I'm like, no, I did not. There's the welcoming committee, right? And it's like, I have met so many like young radicals in my day, right? Like so many. And there is a playbook. And I can tell you this was not it. The welcoming committee was out to meet us, all the young guys, all the old guys with their beards, wearing USA baseball caps.
Unbelievable.
Which they must have just got out and bought in the market that day after agreeing to meet us. Now, we were the BBC, right? Like,
right.
But the message was like, we're not going to kill you today.
Like, it's like a sporting event where you're like, well, I really hate the, University of Florida, but today, because we're meeting, wear a baseball cap. But when I go to the game tomorrow, I'll want to sleep.
Yeah, exactly. I'm going to check the rep for every call, right? Yeah. And it was that, recognition of how we can use these messages with each other to find weird common ground and space to at least have conversations. And it was, sorry, no, go. Yeah.
Oh, no, let's just see. And I know that was a big part of your TED Talk, but it's so funny as and what you believe as you're telling this story, and maybe this is a new talk track for you. My mind immediately goes to most of our listeners are primarily corporate America, mostly a little bit later in their career, but they're still just like, what the beep, right? Like this still sucks. And how do we do it differently? And I'm pretty sure they heard the message, but in case they didn't, like if you're freaking nervous and worried about going to meet with the VP about your project report or your boss to ask them for a raise, enter Melanie Marshall and one of a bazillion, but like she went to meet with the people that literally want to kill the entire society in which she resides. And if she can do that, you can go to that.
Oh, you can go to that big meeting. And there is always a way to create something that will make you feel a little bit safer and a little bit more comfortable in that moment. And it might be weird. Right? It might, like, I also have this saying that I've used over the years in many circumstances, and I would love for your listeners to like whisper it under your breath, as normal as possible. Right? Because I went into a Taliban prison, most of whom they're all out running the country now. But at the time, we went into a prison that was, all Taliban. And I'm thinking to myself, I need to go in, I need to be charming. And this is going to be deeply weird. And in my head, I'm like, I'm just going to be as normal as possible. Right? Because you can't be totally normal. It's not a normal situation. And so if you're going to like meet a VP and talk about something like a big screw up, or something really crunchy, that is not normal or comfortable. Try to don't set this huge expectation for yourself, right? Like just try to be as normal as possible. And a little awkwardness is fine.
I love that. So how have you talk a lot about these connections, and there's other stories that I'd love to get into, but how have you done the equivalent of the USA hat and the school with the children?
They don't make sporting hats for the jihadis yet. I mean, it has.
I need a playbook, Melanie. You need a
honestly, it's an untapped market. Maybe we can get out there. I think that I think I'm always doing. I've probably done that more going up the ladder than going down, because when you go into a place where people feel unheard, and this can apply anywhere, right? This isn't just war zones and natural disasters, but when I walk into Gaza and I am meeting a young woman who's never been outside. So I met a woman who, 18, right? It's baby. And she made art from sand sculptures because that was the only art material she could get. So she makes art from sand sculptures. And it is, in a way, easy for her to connect to me because what she desperately wants is to be heard and seen. So she doesn't need a big USA hat from me. What she needed was for me to be like, wow, I see what you're doing. I'm not looking down on, and I was like, wow, like I could never do this in a million years. And then I started talking to her about things I had seen in California. Like, this is like something I saw, on the beach in California. And for her, it was this acknowledgement that she was the same as that artist that was the USA hat, if that makes sense.
It does. I often use the phrase like know someone's currency.
Mm-hmm.
And that currency is usually smaller than you think. I would say the easiest one is like you meet somebody who's an author and you'd love their advice, but buy their book, review their book.
Yeah.
That's probably their currency. Or somebody that's looking for a job, write a recommendation. That's and so you knew her currency, like what was the most valued sort of money to her was
rarely fancy.
Yeah.
It's rarely fancy. I mean, I said going up is often harder. It's because you often have more layers when you're going up into heads of state, or where you're going up to billionaires, where you're going up to. So I interviewed Angelina Jolie. I did her first post-divorce interview. And we did it, though, in a film about her work in Cambodia and a film she had made about Cambodia. So there were a couple of things there. One, that was her currency. She really loves that country and cares about it. Two, she had all of her kids there. And her kids were wandering around and they interacted with us. And so she saw that basically, I don't know how good my language has to be for your podcast.
No, go ahead,
America. I wasn't a dick to kids.
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah.
That got back, right? So then she's kind of like, oh, she's not a dick to kids.
Yeah. The bar is low sometimes, right? We forget how low it is.
Yeah, we forget how low it is, right? But when you're moving in those circles where you don't feel like you can trust anyone, which is often the truth for high value individuals, right? Sure. Where you kind of want to know someone's a good person before you open up.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. What was your favorite interview?
Oh. I mean, fancy ones, that was pretty amazing because we actually ended up cooking. This was her idea. Well, no, actually, this was my idea. I shouldn't say this. The amazing Yalda Hakim, who I traveled with a lot. I mean, she was like, you're always doing this to me. Like, I think you have this with your friend. Like, she's like, why are you always like making me eat something or touch something? Or like, she's like, you're always whispering, like, touch the teeth, eat the bug, do this. But I said, like, I want to do something more fun. Like, let's not just do a sit down. Let's do something that's more like you here. And she was like, well, why don't we do insects? Like, why don't we do? And I said, let's do cooking with insects.
Love it.
And
with Angelina Jolie.
With Angelina Jolie. And my beautiful friend, right? Who's like amazing and super professional. And let's be honest, would never have done that in a million years. Right. Because, but did it like a champ. Right. And so I think I loved that because it was different and fun and gross and gave you a different side. But generally, I don't like famous people, not as people. Like, there are lots of nice ones. But that whole scene for me is not what I'm about. Like, my thing, I think, is that I've been able to experience the sort of 1% of human experience that most people never have access to.
Yeah. I think it's similar to Nicole, my co-host, the way she puts it. She spent much of her time in conflicts and bad beaches. And I think, this is celebrity sounds great, but you've also spent a lot of your time in conflict and bad beaches.
I spent most of my time in conflict and bad beaches. Like, when you say like a favorite interview, I can usually think of like one or two fancy ones. And then there was like the Vietnamese billionaire who let me pet his dolphin, right? Like that's, I'm like, did that count as a favorite interview? Because that was great.
Yes.
but because he had a dolphin on his own private island.
It was not him.
Yeah,
It
nothing to
was
do with nothing to do with what I got from that. And I mean, I don't want to. Your listeners won't have seen my TED Talk, but I mean, some of the interviews that I have done, some of the films I've made, have changed me fundamentally as a person. And those are not people that are going to be anyone else has ever heard of. And I think that's really important too. So another trip with my beloved Yalda. We were going to Iraq, and we wanted to make films about where Iraq was 10 years after, the US had gone in, what had happened. And Mosul at that point, I really wanted to go to Mosul. It was one of the most dangerous places in the world. And yet, life is... Well, I know, because I didn't have a lot of my sentences would go. I'd be like, nobody can get in there. I really want to go. So that's generally my approach, right, to a lot of films. But that was my thing with Mosul. And I didn't want to do the normal thing. I didn't want to do it's dusty and dangerous and everyone's miserable. Because nobody connects to that, right?
Yeah.
How are you going to think well, what does that have to do with me? Why do I...
It's depressing and sad, and you feel bad that these people,
Yeah, click.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And life is there. People are still managing to live and be happy and have joy. And that's what fascinates me, how people do that in the middle of something that is genuinely dangerous and awful and corrupt and all those things, and they're still finding their way through. And so I'd found this paragliders club, the Falcon Aviation Club, made up of Christians and Sunni and Shia and men and women who would, despite everything, go out and fly off the hills of Mosul. And I thought, I immediately knew, because for me, that I could feel that. I thought, that's hopeful, right? Amidst everything. And we went and met them. And one of the first people I met was Radha. And she had a big smile. You talk about the hat. My smile is my hat. Mm-hmm. And Radha's smile was like just immediately. And we connected. Divorcee. I'm not divorced, but single, right? No kid, really into her career, funny, loved to laugh. We were immediately joking, making fun of men, just
in Iraq.
In Iraq, right? Talking about how a man's heart is like the wind, right? It changes every few minutes. And just that instant bond and connection and laughing. And I just thought, this is a friend, a friend. An admiration. And that impacted me right away. And we kept in touch over the years. I mean, social media, right? That's how you keep in touch, even if you're far away. And every time I would go back, because Mosul fell right into the hands of IS. And it's weird to say, but I could be sitting in a restaurant 30 minutes outside of Mosul, hoping that she would be able to come out of the city. That close. And she couldn't, because it turned out it was too dangerous, and she was there taking care of her family. And at one point she had left because it was very dangerous for her. She had run for office even at one point. She was what they hated, right? She was a joyous, independent woman who was, and she was a Muslim. She believed, right? But not their belief, not their dark, awful belief. And she had actually gotten out, but she had to go back because she didn't want to leave her dad. And who can't identify, right? These choices we make and we stay with, and these compromises, right? They killed her. And that's the connection. It's I woke up and I remember, I think I was in Singapore at the time. And I had messages from different members of the club, and I had who were spread out at that point. One had gone to Australia. One was on the border with Turkey. Like, people were all over the place, and people sending me messages.
Mm.
And I had a message from her brother, and I remember talking to Yalda, and we were so upset. And we wrote a piece in honor of her, like to honor her life. But it was like, you couldn't do enough to really tell people about her life, right?
Yeah.
You can't, you can't do an obituary the way you can for a political leader, where there's all this footage and you can say, well, they passed this law and they did this thing. But like, she mattered. She impacted me. She impacted my friend. She impacted all of these people with her goodness and her, like, fiery spirit, right? Like, she lived.
Mm.
And she was hopeful, even amidst that, even living in Mosul with those absolute, you're going to have to bleep this one, fucking bastards in charge.
Yeah.
Doing horrible things. She remained hopeful and loving. She's the person who impacted me the most.
Hey, it's Erin with a teeny request. If you have ever gotten any value from this podcast and you'd like us to stick around, plus you want it to continue to grow so we can kind of swindle bigger and more knowledgeable guests to join us and to keep providing you with tangible and inspiring actions you can take to achieve the career and life you deserve, could you please just take 1 minute to leave us a rating and a review? Those reviews go a long way in attracting guests to the show, and candidly, they really make Nicole and I's day. And we see you. We really do. So when you have the time and inspiration, we'd love to see a rating and review from you. Thank you.
And I know you talk about her in the TED Talk, and I don't know you well enough to know your inner thoughts, but imagine for a second, if you haven't, her thinking about, like, I think of her who is, a commoner. I don't know if that's the right word, but, in Iraq, who has a BBC reporter that becomes a true friend of hers. And that impact that probably, I can't even imagine what that felt like in the joy. And I'm sure she couldn't express it. So, like,
I think it was just, though, that we were just people, because she loved my cat. I mean, he was a great cat, but like, she loved his pictures, and I don't think she thought of me as a voice to the world. I think we just liked each other. And I think there's so much about that is about how connection is the most important thing that drives change. And, I think if you think about the different stages that you get to in your career, and when you reach a new one, you realize, oh, they're all people, right? We also always say that, but when you reach a different level of success, I'd love to know that from you, right? You reach different levels of success. Do some of those preconceptions about the people around you at a similar level fall away?
They do.
Right? You're not viewing them that way.
100%. As soon as you get in that room one-on-one with somebody, as you sort of climb the ladder or get to another company you've been wanting to work with. Absolutely.
So I think, and I think it's like, the willingness to let yourself be influenced by somebody is really important. Right? Like, there is a time for vulnerability and a time to not have it. I actually believe that. I think you can be authentic without always letting it all hang out, because I've been
they're not synonymous anyway. So
they're not synonymous. But I am grateful that I have let myself be impacted so much by the people I have met, because I feel a gift and a responsibility to let what I have learned from them go forward. And that, to me, is how Radha lives on. For me, I mean, for her family, for her friends, there will be different ways. But for me, that is how she lives on. And and other people. And like there were happier stories, funnier stories, different stories. Like there's so many, right? But like that is, I mean, I think she's easily the person who, because like it's true. That is, I could never have done this with you if I had stayed at the BBC doing what I was doing, even though I loved it and it was amazing. To be able to say, okay, I want to take this now and try and give it as, I don't know, a gift and a service. I had to then do the next scary thing, which was for me scarier than going to Mosul.
Yeah. But it's a different medium. It's a different way to get the stories out.
Yeah.
And so I want to go back to what you had said to me at the beginning, which is, you know, a big part about your message and your brand that you're forming, and this message of hope and optimism in a world where you've seen what everybody would think you would be the biggest pessimist in the world. Tell us more about the foundation of that hope and optimism for so many people listening that probably are, you know, a lot going on in the world, a lot going on in the US. Some of us are less optimistic than others. Tell us more.
I realize that optimism gets a big eye roll right now from a lot of people in a lot of places, right? Actually, people on all sides of the spectrum, right?
It probably gets an eye roll and a sponge where it's like, okay, tell me more, right?
So I think one of the things that I have found doing all of this is if you let it, the world will humble you, right? It's going to break your heart and it is going to humble you because you realize how absolutely little you know, right? So when I talk about like Afghanistan is a place I went to over and over again for years and years and years. And I care about it greatly. It has broken my heart right now. And I will tell you that I am 99% sure that there is joy going on somewhere behind closed doors. And the reason I believe this is because the Afghan people and Afghan women are funny as hell. Like it's who they are. Like I remember going through airport security on a trip back to Afghanistan, and you go through separately if you're men and women, right? Because I've got to check you down, and they really give you the business, right? Like it is a.
Sometimes you have to pay for that.
Yeah, exactly. It is a full experience. And so the woman has given me the full pat down, and I come out and I say to my friend Lise, I say, oh, and she says to me, so she pats me down and she's like, oh, you have a nice body. And I said, well, thank you. I was like, I was really like, yeah. I came out, I said to Lise, I was like, she just told me I have a nice body. And Lise is like, look, if the last person to tell you that you have a nice body is like the airport security person at Kabul airport, you need to do something about your life. Like, you're like, really, like something needs to, change.
As a friend.
As a friend, I'm telling you, but as a friend, I'm telling you this as we go off into the back of beyond. And I remember going to this, I don't think it was on that trip, going to this very, very remote village where we were welcomed by the most senior woman, because that's what happens. And then we were invited, the women, to stay with the chief's wife and daughters, and which is great because they had the nicest room. And because I'll tell you, like, you're going to be peeing in a bottle. That's the truth, because you can't go off. Yeah, it's true. It's true. And you just don't poop. You just mentally tell yourself, I'm not pooping. Yeah.
What? I'd be screwed. I poop every day.
No, you wouldn't. You just wouldn't. Because you know what? You do not want to be going off into, you just don't. Anyway, I'll tell you another story about that one where you just, sometimes you do. And then you regret it. But in this case, you're in this lovely room with underfloor heating, And as soon as the men leave, the door locks, headscarves off, and the women start laughing. They put music on one of their phones and they immediately want to know about my sex life. That's the first thing they want to know about.
That is amazing.
And there, of course, like granted a huge disappointment because as we just discussed, the best I'd had was at the airport on the way in, right? But it's, but like who you think people are and what you think is not what you're seeing.
Mm.
I mean, it's a very long-winded way to come back to optimism, but what we think we know is not always true. And there is always something still under the surface that remains. And the end isn't the end, right? Where we think the end is isn't there, right? Things change, things evolve.
Yeah, that's such a powerful message right now because I think with some of the things that are bringing so much down, at the end of the day, what I hear is like, I'm still, I'm still that person under whatever sort of ugliness is going on. And luckily at this point anyways, it's not me having to wear a headscarf or cover my cleavage or anyway, but that metaphorical, like it's still us.
You're not all locked up.
Yeah.
Yeah. But you're still under there, right?
We can still dance and we can still talk about our sex lives and we can still make friendships and we can still,
have that connection, be joyous.
Mm-hmm.
And there will be a time that, I believe there'll be a time when that emerges again.
Mm.
And that does not go away.
Yeah.
And I remember leaving after I was in the Philippines for a big typhoon. It caused huge damage, thousands of lives lost, very traumatic. Like you can't sugarcoat things either, right? That is not how you get to real hope and optimism. It was horrible. It was one of the worst things I've been to in lots of ways. I was mugged on the way in, which is hilarious and in a weird way, right? And when I was there, very tough living conditions. We had, done what we do, which is, managed to hire drivers, and they were really worried about their families, of course. And so we said, look, bring your families to stay where I'd found a place that used to be a hotel that had mostly no roofs, but we were camping there. And I said, bring your families. They're going to stay with us, and then everybody's together. And the wives and the kids came, and it was like our BBC camp, right? Mm-hmm. And the wives, rock stars, came and were like, okay, well, we'll cook. Like, we're going to homestead. And that was amazing because we were working our butts off and hungry, and I can't cook to save my life in any condition, right?
And hopefully you can poop in this country.
But again, I'm going to tell you, pooping is a whole different story. I could probably do an entire speech just on pooping because pooping as a woman in war zones and natural disasters is just fraught. It's just fraught with difficulty. Fraught.
Oh my God.
I don't know if it's inspiring, but it's fraught. But when I left there, I remember feeling really sad, right? So we'd had this amazing time. We'd all gotten really close. You have this feeling that, okay, you become really close. And then I always would have this sort of survivor's guilt about leaving because I could always leave, right? I could always leave that place, go back and have this bizarre experience of going into a stocked supermarket.
Yeah.
And be like, that would always be my blow my mind place where I'd be like, how many kinds of cheese are there? Oh my God. And I'd have this horrible guilt. And then over the years, Troy and Murray, who I stayed in touch with, I see them growing. And I see in some part the money that we had paid them being used to rebuild their lives and send their kids to school.
Amazing.
And I see their kids graduate from high school. Now, this isn't meant to be like white savior. Oh, look what we did.
Right.
It's that. Don't take that away. The takeaway is that I left thinking, oh God, poor them. But the story wasn't over. It wasn't easy, but it wasn't over.
Okay.
And that's where I get hope. And I think we really need to take a step back. And this is for any of us too. And it doesn't have to just be about how absolutely screwed the world seems. It can be if you were in a place where you're thinking they're cutting a bunch of people from the workforce, or I have no idea what's going on. Like, you know, you probably don't even have the big picture of that, and it's going to be okay.
And I love what you said. Sort of the story is hard, but it's not over. It's not over. Let's talk about bravery a little bit. Just what's the other word? You mentioned that you get this all the time, right? Like, oh my gosh, you've gone to, battle lines and front lines. You must be so brave. And you say, no, I'm really not.
Oh, so not. I am just the biggest coward in the world. I swear to you. There is I have the most keen sense of someone pointing a gun at me of I swear anyone. Well, no, probably special forces people. Because if any of my friends who are in that business were listening to this podcast, they'd be like, are you bloody kidding me? We've had to knock you down a time or two. So get in the car, Marshall. But there is. I actually put it in my sizzle reel because it makes me laugh. We were in Ukraine, and I mean, it's bad to say, I guess, probably, but it's true. We were in Ukraine, and there had been an airstrike, and we had gone to look at the follow-up, and they were trying to rescue people from the rubble and all of these things. And here's something in the distance. That's a plane. Uh-oh. Because it wasn't the Ukrainians. Realized it's the Russians coming back. I will tell you, I am so out of shape. But if you want to see me run, danger. And there is video of me.
You're like, I don't care if I look uncool.
Uncool, pushing our cameraman out of the way to run and get in the car first. Running. That is not brave. That's not brave. That's not brave. I remember getting in Libya, we'd thought that most of Gaddafi's people had been sort of routed. Because, now that was, that was crazy. Because a real jerk had thrown my helmet out at the border in a fit of man-childness. And anyway, not his own, mine. And I had a helmet for pretty much the fall of Tripoli. And anyway, that's fine. No, I was like, oh, well, it's fine. It was pretty much fallen. Everything's cool. I'm standing there chatting with somebody, and I feel this. And I swear to you.
Freaking missile? Bullet?
Sniper. Right between us.
Didn't even graze your ear.
I dropped so fast. And just began to dig into the ground using my boobs. It's God bless my giant cans. Thank you, Grandma Ruby. Because my ability to sort of burrow. The utility of burrowing. Oh my gosh. That's not brave. I don't know, maybe it's fast response time. But if you were to compare it to my agility in non-wartime sports, you would be really impressed. You'd be like, wow, she is a lot faster.
There's a big delta.
It's something else. So no, I don't think I'm brave. I think I'm good at those situations. I think I am weirdly good at not being afraid during something. I think a lot of us have, and this, there's a psychologist who came up with this. I don't remember his name, but some people are afraid before, which isn't great. If you're, that's something you can learn to cope with and learn to deal with. Some people are afraid during, and that is probably the most dangerous if you're in something really high pressure that is actually high risk, actual high risk.
Yeah. Not presenting the business case.
Not presenting a business case. That we can also breathe you into calm. And some people are afraid after. And some people never get afraid, and they're sociopaths, right? But I'd say, and for me, I think I also, and this I think is probably, I don't think most people are brave. I think bravery is a very, very rare thing, real bravery. Like that bravery as we imagine it in the movies, like firefighters, right? Like bravery as like the guy who goes out or the gal who goes out and like drags back 10 people.
Right.
I think what happens is you have a purpose that is greater than what is holding you back.
The purpose propels you.
The purpose propels you. And I think that is true whether or not it is a family. Because, these families that I have met are not brave. They're just families, like normal families in normal places, as normal as possible, being put through a war zone. And their purpose, which is to keep their family safe and survive, propels them through the unimaginable. And so it's the same thing for me, right? I really, really believe it is important to connect you, your listeners, the world, with what is happening out there. And so all the other stuff was like, I can work it out.
But I have to, in order to tell everybody the real story, like, they go through.
Yeah, just got to work out the rest. But that's not me being like, oh, I don't care.
Right.
Like I laugh in the face of danger.
Right.
like I don't.
My kid.
Yeah, exactly.
The front and the back.
I burrow in the face of danger.
Love that.
Hey guys, Erin here. Stop. Do not do it. Don't fast forward. I have something too important. I have a couple of very passive-aggressive questions to ask you that you don't want to miss. Here they are. 1, do you find yourself often comparing yourself to others? Like, they work harder than me. They get noticed more than me. They have better luck than me. They're smarter than me. Or do you also just feel exhausted from having to always work as hard, if not harder, than everybody else to stand out and succeed? I know you have these challenges. We all do. And this is why I wrote the 50% rule. And I know you need to read another book like you need a hole in the head. But I'm telling you, this book and this rule, I'm obsessed with it. And it has changed my life. It has changed the lives of others around us. And it has also been the formula for success behind so many successful people. Savannah Bananas, Hamilton, Weird Al Yankovic. The 50% rule is the simplest shortcut to stop comparing, stop copying, stop chasing other people, and literally compete in your league of your own. There isn't a day that doesn't go by where I stop myself and I'm like, oh, she did a talk that I wish I could do. She's got more. No, it doesn't matter. Because we don't compete in the same league. I compete in a league of my own because I am constantly 50% ruling things. So if you're interested in this concept, which, by the way, is more fun as a team sport, but at least start with yourself. You cannot miss this book. It's not only powerful, it's really freaking fun to read. That is always my number one goal. It was my number one goal with my first book. It's my number one goal with the 50% rule. I want to make it enjoyable to read it. Why? So that you read it. So if you feel like you are stuck with these comparison cramps or just all the symptoms that I talk about in the book of sleep running syndrome, self-doubt gout, and pioneer paralysis, and well, you have to read the book to find out more, then just go buy the darn book. Easiest way, go to Amazon, search the 50% rule, and I cannot wait to hear how you 50% rule things.
Okay, while we're laughing, we have to hear the feather duster story.
Okay, so sometimes I weep. Sometimes I weep out loud, like ugly, racking sobs in a cemetery. This is the end of the feather duster story. So I'm going to go back to the beginning. Sometimes I wish I didn't try to understand people and things. Because occasionally, you end up petting a billionaire's dolphin, or, you're somewhere amazing. And sometimes you get whacked repeatedly with a feather duster. So, you don't always know. You roll the dice And you don't always know which way it's going to go. I went to a shrine so sex segregated that I've got some pretty good chaste outfits.
Mhm.
I've got some good, like, cover it all up,
Mhm.
you know?
Mhm. Sure.
Tunic, long pants, headscarf. Like, you can't see a clavicle, baby. It's
Locked away.
modesty. It's locked in, right? And I had something else on, but this isn't good enough. Oh no, it's not good enough for this place. Right? You've got to, and I'm trying to film, right? So we're supposed to be segregated, but I've also got to put on a chador because we are right by the Iranian border, which, okay, another thing that might be something for people to avoid. I don't know how helpful that is to your wider audience.
You're planning your summer vacation for
If you're planning your
2025.
summer vacation, don't accidentally. We also accidentally know that. Yeah, just the number of things. Don't accidentally do that. So we're right by there. The fundamentalists are out in full swing, and so I've got this chador on. I'm trying to, and it is like wearing a sheet. It's not everywhere, and I am also trying to keep an eye on the team, who I am in charge of. I am the boss. I am not the lady in a sheet. I am the boss. And that did not matter to the men in charge of modesty at this shrine. And I swear they were following me around. And if it slipped to show, the chador slipped to show even a tiny hint of hair, like the smallest little bit of forelock, whack, with a feather duster. Deep breath. Pull it over. Then I tried to step over into the men's section where my team were filming because I needed to tell them something important because I'm the boss. What? Then I'm starting to get really cross. Like I am. It's hot. I am annoyed. I am really good at trying to be understanding and culturally blending and, appreciating, but I don't dig this shit at all, right? Like, and I'm looking at this guy and I'm like, you hit me with that goddamn feather duster one more time, but I can't cause an international incident at a super holy shrine while working for the BBC, right? Like, you just can't. Like, and I know that in my head. In my head, I know that. But I'm thinking, I will throw this and we will throw down. Like, that's what's going to happen. And so I step back and I'm wrestling with it. And I lean against a wall just to try and take a deep breath and calm down. And the wall pulls my chador back down behind me, revealing a whole 2 inches of hair, Aaron.
Oh my goodness.
Like a whore. Like a whore.
The beating began.
Whack, whack, whack. And I honestly thought I was going to lose my mind. And my team were nowhere to be found, right? Like our local guy who could have maybe come and done something was nowhere to be found. Did you know who saved me? It was not divine intervention. It was women. It was a group of women who looked up and saw this poor foreign woman and obviously saw that I was about to cause an international incident.
I'm picturing, by the way, 80s movie probably with Chris Farley and you just putting your head down and just running like a defensive tackler straight into this guy's gut is what I'm picturing forming in your head.
And just that sort of, and my inability, what I would have loved to say to him and my inability to say any of it to him, right? Because anyway, and these women, bless them, just sort of rose up in one, all by the way, managing to be completely glamorous and graceful wearing their chadors, looking like fashion models in theirs, not a hint of like, none of the wrestling, none of the sheet wrestling, like no folding a fitted sheet issues for them. And just sort of enveloped me in like a cloud and moved me over.
So they didn't even attack him because they knew they couldn't.
They knew they couldn't. They just circled me, moved me in, adjusted my chador, sat me down, and got out a bag of snacks.
Can't wait for Nicole to listen to this episode. First of all, you guys are like, I've read it at birth. She's always got snacks, and she's just eating the snacks before they're supposed to be eaten, but snacks save the day.
Snacks save the day. Other women, right? Encircle the person who needs it. And snacks.
And what a message for our listeners too. Like, DEI, schmeei. Like, you do your own thing. You envelop people. You bring snacks. You cook dinners. You ask life, and life is still good.
And you manage to look. You do what needs to be done. Later that evening, I did not go out and eat fish with my team because I was still quite annoyed. I stayed in my room. I took off my clothes down to my laciest underwear. And I blasted Eminem. Shook my, without me, shook it. I shook it, baby.
Take that, shrine. Oh,
and that was like, and so that's like the other thing, right? Is you find those spaces and places where you can like let it out. And that made me feel better, right? That was like, I'm still me. I'm still me. And then I could like put my game face back on. Because I really couldn't have caused an international incident.
Right. The cemetery.
Oh yeah, then the next day, I mean, that whole trip was a bit of I'll be honest, that didn't go in, that's not going into the book as like and that one was one of my favorite trips of all time, right? That's not going to be.
Oh, it's just a big shit show.
It's just shit. It was just a big shit show from start to finish in a lot of ways. We did get our own bus to ourselves at one point. That was fun. But in the cemetery, so we went to the cemetery, which was beautiful. It was a beautiful place to film. It's the world's largest cemetery, so it's absolutely incredible to look at. But I think I still had a bit of a chip on my shoulder about the patriarchy. And there were no feather dusters because I had said to the local producer, I said, if anyone hits me with a feather duster today, it's over. Like, that's just, like, you need to be watching. Don't let anyone near me. And, but there was just one or two things that happened within my own team, which was interesting, where they were just a little bit, all dudes, right? Just a little bit hard to manage. And I just felt I felt the tears start to well up in my eyes. And I don't know, I think it was just, and I wasn't even sad. I was just overwhelmed, and I didn't bring my own snacks, and I was and overwhelmed. And so I ended up going and like hiding. I hope it was beside some nice woman who would have understood tomb, and just having a cry. Because I tried to just tough it out, but actually I also just needed to have a cry that I didn't have the allies I wanted, that nobody did understand exactly what I was going through. And I was just going to have to big girl panty it anyway. Still not the worst cry I've had. Okay, worst cry ever. And not that many. It's funny because I'm not actually a crier. I'm a solver. I'm fixing it and doing it. I'm taking care of everyone. I'm, sorting it out. I'm, taking care of everyone. That was also my best place I ever stayed because we ended up bringing in a tour bus that Beyonce had once slept in. And I slept in a bed that Beyonce had once slept in.
That's amazing.
However, I then had to have my cat put down over the phone during Hurricane Katrina.
Oh, Melanie.
I know. It was just horrible. And that was another one where I didn't feel, and this was actually correct. This was the correct response. there was so much suffering around me. Although one thing I learned later on, I was quite young at the time, I was very young at the time, is that most people who are really going through it don't put a premium on their own suffering. Most people who are really going through it are actually incredibly compassionate and open. And I say this now because my friends who are living in other places like Yemen see my posts about things I'm doing that are great and are like, yay, you. So we have to get over some of those ideas. But at the time, my cat died. I was extremely sad. I was also extremely tired and hadn't showered in a week and was, all of this happening around me. And I thought, okay, I can't fall apart in front of the team. I can't fall apart in front of anybody who's experiencing this disaster. So I just walked. I just walked off. And I walked off and I found a deserted Wendy's drive-through, and I stood under the deserted Wendy's drive-through and I just started crying. And this Jeep of American Marines, who, by the way, were quite late to the party, but still, I'm going to give them some credit for this, hauled ass up to me, literally like the movies, squealed tires and everything, and leap out, ma'am, are you all right, ma'am, are you okay? Because they thought I was like a Katrina refugee who had suffered something horrible.
Oh my gosh.
And I couldn't say to them, my cat just died in New York City.
And then you're reporting for the BBC.
Yeah, that just,
Yeah.
I don't know where that falls on your authenticity scale. So I just said, it's really a lot.
It's not lying.
I wasn't lying. Is that okay? Yeah, okay.
Authenticity and transparency are not the same thing.
Okay, all right. Thank you. Okay, good. We checked. I feel better now. All right.
All right, we got to hear your buck that story. And then just one final tip. So I know you have a buck that story. We ask this every interview. What's a time where you sort of buck the norm and good things happened?
Ooh. So, so again, Afghanistan, one of my favorite places in the world. We wanted to make a film about the most dangerous place on earth to give birth if you were a woman. And in part, at that point, it was still you see a lot more of it now, but at the time it was very much like, let's go and shoot guns and wear our flak jackets, yeah. And I just have no interest in general in that kind of storytelling. I don't think, I admire our people who serve greatly, and I have lots of friends who do and have. But for me, that's not my kind of storytelling. And I think that there's a limit to how it connects people with the world. I think the service is great, not my story. So I wanted to go off and tell this story. And the bosses were like, okay, well, why don't you just go to Kabul and you can just do it from there. You can interview a few NGO people and do it from there. And I was like, absolutely not. This is my team and I should say, not just me. We're going to go to Badakhshan. Which is the remotest remote province. I think I have it in here. I've still got the big chunk of lapis that was given to me by the one obstetrician in the entire province. And we're going to go there and we're going to see what it is like for a woman to give birth. And it was one of those ones where the hardest part of that trip was probably ignoring the bosses telling us that we didn't need to do the whole thing. We didn't need to come back. We didn't need I am cognizant of the time only because this could be an entire story in itself. We went through 3 spare tires in probably the first 5 hours. And I remember we were driving on the riverbed because you drive on the riverbed to avoid mines. And there's a guy who fixes tires in the middle of the riverbed. And I remember thinking, I wonder why that guy's there. And then 30 minutes later, I was like, oh, I know why that guy's there. We'll just go back and
I wonder why he's climbing up the mountain and putting sharp little objects down next to the riverbed.
that damn tire, where did that damn, where did that damn nail come
Where
from?
did that thumbtack come from?
Oh man. And to get to Shari Berg, which was like, makes it sound like it's some sort of like Pittsburgh bustling metropolitan kind of place, but it really was not. And it was this small clinic. But I mean, I don't even describe to you. If just think Afghanistan is far and remote.
Yeah.
Then go far and remote in Afghanistan. There you are. There we are in the middle of nowhere.
I'm from Michigan originally. I'm picturing like the Upper Peninsula, but like more dirt, less trees.
Oh my gosh. That's actually a super good description. And our driver, I guess, was finding me a little challenging because I was trying to encourage him to beep as we took the extremely sharp hairpin turns on a single lane track where there's no visibility because I didn't want us to all die. And he was saying to my friend in Dari, my friend and colleague, like, the German tourists who were here didn't do any of this. They just sat in the back and sang songs. And I'm like, why don't we honk? And he's like, why doesn't she just sing a song? Like, complaining about me all the way up. But he did do it. And apparently he kept on doing it. And this was bucking a trend. Like, it was just one of those things where I was so sure that it was the right thing to do to keep going, to go further, to know more. And then when we got up there, nobody came to the clinic. I had defied, essentially. I defied in a way that my bosses would occasionally put up with, but I defied them. Like, I had said, no, this is absolutely right. We can do this. I've got the access. I've managed it. We can get there. And we got up there and I'm sitting outside this clinic thinking,
Nobody pregnant,
nobody here. What are we going to do? Like, what if nobody comes?
Yeah.
And that night, we slept in part of the clinic and got woken up because it exploded. There was a fire. And we had to, and Lise and I had been sleeping in the best room because women, best room. And we were trying to put our headscarves on because you can't climb out in Dehabil, right? This remote Afghanistan. It's not how it's done. And I mean, I will say those Afghans, all of them were so amazing and brave. They got us out, climbed out the window, got our tapes because we had already filmed some stuff. Mm-hmm. And then they went back in and started doing how would you describe it? Like handing it out like person to person, all of our stuff.
Beautiful.
But I hadn't slept in my bra. And as they handed out my bra from man to man,
oh my gosh,
they said to my friend and colleague Schweib, "Is this yours?" And he said, "No, it's the Tajiks." Because we were right by the border there were Tajik nurses there. We were right by the border with Tajikistan because he didn't want everyone in the village to think I was some sort of whore. And I never got that bra back. And it was a really good one. And I think they probably still blame the Tajiks up there, which is really unfortunate. They were really good nurses and it's a real shame. Anyway, moving on. They also thought I was injured because I wasn't wearing shoes and I had red nail polish on.
Oh, sorry.
So again, then when they figured it out, again, the talk of the town. So anyway, we managed to survive that, blame the Tajiks. The next day, a woman did come and we had our film. She gave birth to a baby. I was in the room. I did the filming. Baby died. And she was relieved that she had lived because that was so unusual. And when she was able to go home, we went back to her village. And and met the locals, met everybody in the village, met the local midwife who said, like, look, I can't read or write. Like, I do my best, but there's not only so much I can do. We talked to the men about the fact that they were agreeing that women shouldn't be married so young. However, then Lise asked the brilliant question, well, how old was your wife when you married her? And it turned out they'd all married their wives under the age of 15. Right? Like, so all these things. And then at the very end, I don't know how they always think I guess I just give off that era. They wanted to give me a goat because I guess I've been so friendly because my smile is my USA hat, bringing it around. Right. And they gave me a goat in gratitude for coming. And I was so happy. And Tony and Lise, the team I was with, and Schweib were like, are you kidding? And Schweib is like, well, we have to take the goat. Like, we can't again, can't leave the goat. That's not how it works. Tony and Lise are like, oh, no, like, now we've got a goat. And we had to drive it all the way back to the big city, right? Like, which was like an 8 or 9 hour drive. Once we got back to Schweib. And so we had this goat with us the whole way. And as we were driving, we find out it's not a boy goat at all. We thought it was a boy goat. I'd named it after a boss I didn't like very much because I thought we were going to eat it at some point. It turned out the goat was pregnant.
Oh my goodness. The irony.
And so we donated her to the charity that had helped us, where I hope she lived a long and happy life. And then, of course, but then the bosses still tried to make us abandon the film, by the way. They still tried to make us abandon the film to come back and do news coverage. However, hallelujah, there was an earthquake and it disabled the plane that we were supposed to fly back on, which bought us 3 extra days. And we just edited day and night. And if you ask them now, they will tell you that wasn't the case. They will tell you it was always their idea that we do that film.
Sure.
Anyway.
I love it. I could sit here all day.
Sorry, yeah.
No, it's not you.
I don't know if that is a Buccaneer. I don't know if it's a Buccaneer. I think
it is.
Buccaneer. Is it?
Yeah, absolutely. Especially if you're pushing back against what the boss tells you to do. That is squarely in the center of everything I love about Buckingham.
Oh, yeah. It's a lot easier if there's an earthquake, though. But I would have done it anyway. I would have found a way. And I think
you don't go all that way. Get a go, bring it all the way back, and not release the story and not finish.
No, come on. You just have to keep finishing. And sometimes the trick is to just keep getting a little bit further from their reach. A little bit further from their reach and give them a little bit more of a sweetener.
I love it.
Like a picture of a goat you've named after them.
Because of your admiration.
Exactly.
Where can our listeners learn more and follow you on your adventures?
Well, I'm out in the big wide world. They can go to my website and you can follow me on my Substack, which I am trying to do more of this year. And I am doing more speaking engagements. That's what I'm really leaning into this year. So book me, baby. I'm available.
Baby. For a little dose of optimism, bravery, and
get a little dose of optimism. So all of that, website, LinkedIn, Substack, and I'm going to be out there, real life, in front of your faces soon.
Love it. Well, thank you. I can't think of a better guest to have on because work doesn't have to suck. Because we'll rename this because the world doesn't suck either.
It doesn't suck, I promise.
Hey, Erin here. So I know we talk often about this concept of authenticity as a secret weapon to success. I swear to you, my authenticity was literally the number one thing that helped me become both the CEO of a 9-figure company at the age of 42, but also that helped me lead an insanely successful financial and cultural turnaround of that same company. But I get that authenticity as a secret weapon kind of sounds fluffy, like fluffy unicorn doo-doo that leaves you wondering, what do I actually wake up tomorrow and do differently without looking stupid or getting fired? This is exactly why I put together the Authenticity Playbook for you. It gives you 10 plays or really thought starters that are simple, actionable things that will help you up your career and leadership game. To get your free authenticity playbook, go to beauthenticinc.com/playbook. Again, that's beauthenticinc.com, just the letter B, authentic.inc.com/playbook. Or to make it simple, just scroll down to the show notes and we've got you covered with a link there too.